Are you interested in going to Cuba, but you are overwhelmed with all the information that you have researched so far? Well, look no further, boo. I got you. In this video, I'm going to share everything I wish I had known prior to going to Cuba and everything that I found out that helped me tremendously for my first solo trip to Cuba. Stay tuned. Hey boo, my name is Kira, and on this side of town, we talk about all things travel, budget traveling to be exact. So if that's something that you're interested in, be sure to go ahead and thumbs up this video and subscribe. I promise you will get the tea with me. Not long ago, sis, your girl finally worked up enough nerve to travel solo to Cuba. I spent night and day trying to research information, as much information as possible. And to be honest, all of that research really paid off, sis. It's my pleasure to share, to make your experience a little bit more easier than what I was experiencing. You know, for me, when I was looking into going to Cuba and I read a lot of the reviews, I remember like long lists of things that needed to be completed compared to other places that I have visited. I'm not gonna lie, I got a little discouraged. But as I dug a little deeper, I realized, like, girl, it ain't that bad. I'm gonna say that this particular trip was more so an experience. It was very education and spiritual and liberating and very chill compared to my other travel ventures. So I wouldn't necessarily call this a vacation like the beaches and the resorts and the pools and the, you know, it wasn't really giving that, but I still nevertheless had a great time. And I want to say that I felt safe for the most part. Now I will say, as an American, honey, you will get a lot of catcalling. The Cuban men love them some American women, child. And you will stick out like a sore thumb. Expect them to whoo and holler and and woo woo. I mean, any type of damn noises to get your attention. Expect that, but it's okay. You're gonna be just fine. I traveled from Fort Lauderdale, Florida on JetBlue Airlines. It was about a 45-minute flight. Very, very quick, child. My round trip ticket was about $220, if I'm not mistaken. Might I add, my flight experience was everything. Okay, I would definitely travel with JetBlue again. If you want a detailed flying with JetBlue for the first time experience, make sure you check out this video. I'll link it up above. I want to say, for entry requirements, make sure that you complete the declaration form prior to going. I completed my form within 48 hours of traveling. Make sure you're screenshotting that Q code that they're going to give you at the end of completion of the form, because they absolutely will ask for this when you arrive to Cuba. You will also need a visa, which was new to me, child, because I thought, as an American, long as you have your passport, you are good to go, but that's not the case with Cuba. The great thing about it, though, JetBlue had it available for you to be able to buy right at the desk when you're checking in for only $50. I did hear, and I also did my research, where you can actually pay for a visa ahead of time. If you just one of those people that just be like, no, I need to have it right now, right here. I don't want to wait. You do have that option, but I did see that it was a little bit more expensive than what JetBlue was offering at the desk. So of course I'm going with the savings, but you do you. I did travel under the category Support the Cuban People. I also remember that I should recreate a itinerary that consisted of everything that I would be doing, just in case I needed to show how I was going to be supporting the Cuban people. And good thing I did, child. I was randomly screened at the airport by immigration or customs. Once I got off the airplane, you walk through customs, immigration. I went up, showed them my passport, my visa. The gentleman made this little noise, and then someone just came out of nowhere. Well, I ain't gonna say out of nowhere, but he came from a location all the way over there, child, minding his own business. He came over to me. He's like, ma'am, can I speak with you for a second? And I'm like, okay, what is this about? And he's like, did you travel into Cuba by yourself? Where are you gonna be staying? He wanted to know the name of the hotel or the Casa. He wanted to know what was my plans while I was there. Do I work? What do I do for a living? How long I was gonna be there for? And I just was like, okay, after a few questions, I was like, okay, sir, is there a problem? I know he's doing his job, but it's also very weird and very alarming, especially traveling solo. Now, I was not searched. I was only questioned. After a few questions, or a lot of questions, I should say, he went on to take me back to a desk, but a different one. And one of the representatives stamped my visa and allowed me to proceed on. I did get a little nervous, but I already knew that I was covered in the blood of Jesus, honey, okay? I already knew that God had me. He would never leave me nor forsake me. So I was like, oh, I'm going to be good. I guess this is part of the process. But I just want to let you know that I was so glad that I had my itinerary and everything printed off so that I could, show him, right here, right in his face, okay? So that if anything did seem a little out of the ordinary or a little alarming, it kind of eased that for him. So make sure you're traveling with your itinerary. Make sure you're printing out your passport, your ID, your information for your Casa, your excursions, anything that you may need just in case your phone died or you don't have internet access. It's going to be great to just have it on hand. Health insurance is needed in order to travel to Cuba. However, it was never asked for. And I do know that health insurance it was included in my JetBlue ticket. So make sure you're booking with an airline that includes the health insurance. I remember reading that it was included up to 30 days of my stay in Cuba. Make sure you download offline maps. Maps.me. Is it maps.me or maps.me or something like that? Download that offline. Honey, that helped me tremendously. Okay, when I tell you you're not going to have any type of access to any type of internet, we're going to get to that soon, but this is going to come in handy. Download it before you leave. Trust me, it's going to be very helpful. Make sure you're getting pesos. Pay in pesos instead of paying in USD. Your USD cash will stretch way longer by doing so. And this is what I was told from the local. I mean, we literally sat down, one of my tour guides, and he broke it down to me, and it made so much sense. He showed me, like, this is what you're paying in US dollars for the same thing that you can pay in pesos, and it'll allow your money to be a little longer and last longer just by exchanging the US into the pesos. I hope you're following along. Because I'm one of those ones that's like, USD is gold when you go to foreign countries, you know. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to keep my money. I'm going to keep paying US money. But when he broke it down to me, I'm like, you know what? He made sense. I did get some pesos from him, actually. And that's another thing that he mentioned. Make sure you're exchanging with a local because the rate is way lower. Or you get more at the rate. Or something like that, child. Don't quote me, but I know that the bank is giving you less, basically. So whatever you're getting from your bank, you can get a little bit more with someone that's local. And trust me, it's not going to be hard to find. You will literally find people on the street walking by saying, you need money exchange, you need money exchange, you need money exchange. You need a SIM card, you need a VP, you need this. Like, they're going to be out there. Oh, yeah, and no credit cards are accepted. No U.S. credit cards are accepted while in Cuba. Make sure you're bringing small bills also. Because I realized that most of my money was being spent on tipping. They honestly prefer USD. But again, I did exchange some, and I spent that in like the restaurant and in the small shops and so forth. You can pay with your credit card to get the visa at the airport, but once you leave from the US to go over to Cuba, honey, them credit cards is no longer valid. Accommodations. As an American now, we should not be supporting the Cuban government, but supporting the Cuban people. And you can do this by staying at a Casa particular. This is basically the house of a Cuban local. They are extremely affordable. I found mine on AirBnB. And for the most part, my experience was pretty good. They was pretty pleasant. They was pretty welcoming. Now, I ain't gonna lie. I did run into a few hiccups. One of the hiccups was not having internet access for one whole full day. Imagine that in this day and age. Thank God one of the hosts allowed me to be able to use like their hotspot, so to speak, to be able to get online and be able to communicate with like some of the tour guides that I had set up and communicate with my family, let them know that I was okay. This hiccup or nothing that happened while I was there ruined the trip, but I just want to let you know. The one that I stayed in, it was like 5 rooms, I believe. I don't quote me on the amount of rooms that was there. You share a common space, like the kitchen, the living room, they had like a balcony to sit out on. Living room area, you share like those common spaces. Might I add, no, I barely seen anybody. It was almost like I had the building to myself. Then you had your own private room. But I love the location of where I stayed. It was on the strip. So if you don't like the noise, may not necessarily want to choose the actual Casa that I stayed in, but I love being with the locals. I love being that I was literally down the street, a few steps away from a strip that had food, Cuban food, authentic Cuban food, and honey. And one thing about me, I'm gonna eat. They had like live music and all type of things. And I went on like a weekend, so it was definitely on and popping, honey. And I appreciate that I didn't have to go so far to be able to experience the Cuban culture. If you do happen to book with this particular Casa, make sure you try Anjojos or something like that. I'm gonna put the name here. The food was really delicious, honey. Chef's kiss. And if you ask a local, that was the main place that everybody said. I remember them mentioning Cha Cha Cha. There was another one. I'm gonna put a list here if I can. Hopefully, I wrote them down of some of the places that they said that I should try. My host did set up the transportation for me to and from the airport. They arranged everything. They also arranged my transportation where I needed to go to my experiences or my excursions. I think living with these locals really helped take off a load for my own self, because I honestly don't even know how the hell I would have been able to do it, especially not being very fluent with Spanish. I don't see how the hell people get their own Airbnb and be secluded and away from everybody. I can't even imagine doing that in Cuba. I definitely love the convenience of having someone downstairs that I could yell out to and say, hey, excuse me, can I ask you this? Now, some of them didn't speak the best English, but we made it work. We definitely made it work. This is something that I was kind of shocked, and maybe this is just my personal experience, but I didn't think that a lot of the locals were very friendly compared to some of the other places that I have traveled to throughout the world. I ain't saying everybody now, okay? Because you know people be ready to put words in your mouth. I'm just saying that I expected a little bit more friendliness, a little bit more hospitality. Like, I will walk in the neighborhoods and I'm like, hola, and they looking at me like, who she? But I also realized too that when they quickly realized that you're an American, it was almost like you was a superstar. Oh, Americano. They would start being very friendly. But I also realized quickly that a lot of them had an alternative motive. We were having a really great conversation going, and they're like, well, what do you do? How is it? And then all of a sudden the conversation turns into, well, I have a baby and I need milk. I'm talking about old ass men too. I'm not saying they still don't work, but I'm just saying, like, they start talking about money. They start talking about what they need. And I also realized that even when you gave, it almost felt like it wasn't enough. And I really don't like that feeling of ungratefulness. You would give $5 or a little bit over $5 to people. I'm talking about on the street, not for a service. Just someone speaking about something that they're going through, and you're like, okay. They're just like, oh, this is it? What about 10? What about 20? And I'm like, what? But what we do? You didn't even, I didn't even have to do that. Let me just keep it real. I didn't even have to give you that. Okay, now the kids is another thing. They will walk you down, señorita. They'll walk you down to your destination, asking for money, asking for $1. And even if you give, and please don't ever take anything, it's not for free. Sometimes they'll walk around with these little things, handing them out. It's not free. They'll tell you, oh, free for you, my friend. And then next thing you know, where's my money? If you're one of those ones that don't like to be kind of like bothered, then you probably wouldn't so much like Cuba or staying with the locals. But I mean, I would say no gracias, and sometimes that wasn't enough, but, you know, ignore them. Just keep it moving, ignore them. And the funny thing is, I remember reading a lot about taking, like, chocolates and different little trinkets and things like that to pass out. And I was like, thinking to myself with some of these experiences that I had with some of the locals, I was like, I don't even see how chocolate would have been a great thing for them. I feel like they would have looked at it like, what the hell is this? Like, chocolate. They wanted the USD and they wanted plenty of it. I remember reading where there was a shortage of toilet paper. Matter of fact, shortage of everything. So make sure you're traveling with toilet paper medicines, anything that you will need, because it's not like you can go down the street to a Walgreens, a CVS, a Walmart on the corner. That's not the case here. I do want to say that even though I took toilet paper, everywhere that I went had toilet paper. So I did not experience the shortage, but I'm not going to say that you don't need it. So take it just in case. And if you don't use it, donate it. That's exactly what I did. I donated my toilet paper. I also bought things to donate. I took toiletries, I took feminine care products, medicines. They said that it's hard for them to find potatoes. I was just like, what, really? And then the price that they're saying that the potatoes are, I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I can bring back a suitcase full of potatoes for y'all. Make sure you're doing your research and bring something to donate, once again, to support the Cuban family. If you want internet outside of the place that you will be staying, outside of your Casa particular, you will need a SIM card. You can get one at the airport. You will have access to Wi-Fi for 30 minutes at the Cuban airport by you entering your passport, going to your Wi-Fi, clicking, you'll see it come up, and then it'll ask you for your passport. Might I add that for whatever reason, I was getting an error message, so I was never able to take advantage of the 30-minute Wi-Fi. But they say that it's available. It kept giving me an error message. Immediately when I got into Cuba, I put my phone on airplane mode because I read everywhere where people were getting roaming charges, high ass cell phone bills when they came back. And listen, we're budget friendly around here. Make sure to download WhatsApp. This is what I use to communicate back at home, communicate with my tour guides, and anybody that I book excursions with. I was also able to access Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. TikTok does not work there. I did not do this, but I did do research. And if you want to, you can buy a Wi-Fi card. This will allow you to be able to have access to internet wherever you go. One in particular is called Nata. I'll put the name here. So it's $4 for each card, and each card allows 5 hours of internet. Also, you will need to download a VPN before you get to Cuba. If you're planning on using the SIM, the internet, the Wi-Fi card, all of that, download also a VPN. I'll put here on the screen one that I was recommended. I did not go this route. I felt like it would be the perfect time to disconnect. A lot of the times I'm constantly on my phone and I'm not taking in the experience. I'm not taking in the present moment. So I felt like, okay, I can be okay without internet. Now, I'm not gonna lie, there was times where I was like, oh Lord, I wish I had internet. I'll tell you why in a minute. For the most part, I was okay without it. My internet was offered at my Casa, unlimited, my entire stay for $3 US, which is very affordable, child. Might I add, but remember now, one day I didn't even have internet access. However, they did include for free 3 hours of unlimited internet from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and then that was it. I don't know about you, but I'm not even an early bird. So that wouldn't have worked for me. And I felt like $3 was pretty affordable. And also you are able to use the offline maps even with or without internet. Tours, experiences. I booked everything through AirBnB Experience. This just made it so much easier for me to have everything lined up. Shout out to my homegirl Portia. She created an itinerary for your girl, took some stress off me. And I would definitely suggest you doing so, especially after you make all of your bookings for your experiences. And do so before you get there. Airbnb does not work properly when you get over to Cuba. Now, I do want to mention that some of these experiences required you to pay a deposit beforehand. I'm going to say the deposit at the most was about $10. The remaining balance was paid in USD cash at the time of the experience. And this is just because the USD dollar is worth way more than the peso dollar. So, of course, they want to come out on top. And do you blame them? I did do a classic tour ride. It pretty much just took me around the city, Melicon, Valero. I'm probably saying that wrong. But it took me around different areas, honey. Very famous areas. It's just to take in all the architecture and just really see the beautiful buildings and what Cuba has to offer. It was quite the experience. My tour guide was even nice enough to take pictures. We even, after doing a 2-hour car ride, we then went and did the remaining of it in a walking tour, which was another 2 hours, or maybe a little even after that. I'm not even gonna lie. We had a really great time. I was taken to a rooftop where we had some mojitos, and we had some rum, and we did a cigar tasting. It was just a vibe. Shout out to, is it Amano? I'm gonna put his name here. Very, very, very nice guy. Very, very informative too. One thing he knew was about his culture and his history, and I mean, if you need the tea, that's who to book with. I also did a photo shoot. Shout out to Claudia. She really was like a homegirl. We pretty much walked around, took pictures. We talked about each other's lives and just got to know each other. It really felt like a friend. Not to mention the pictures was giving what they were supposed to give. I also did a Afro cooking class. This experience was really, really great because I was able to see the Afro side, or the Afro-Cuban culture. You meet at the Beyond Roots store, and then from that point they drive you to the location where you'll be cooking, which is actually a Cuban's home. Just open their kitchen up to you, and the food was vegetarian, but honey, when I tell you it was delicious. We had okra, we had potato, we had some type of sweet potato dish for dessert, and we had some fritters. Girl, them fritters, them yuca fritters, girl. They took us out in the back, and we did like this drumming, and we did some dancing, and just kind of got into their culture, into their roots, and celebrated life and positivity. That's what it was all about. The others that was there was really, really dope. A lot of solo travelers also. The ladies that I was with, we all walked back together because our Casa was in the same area. And then we even did some nightlife, which I was not planning on doing, but it was fun. We went to a place called Fabrica or something like that, and it's basically like an art museum, very, very large, and they had different rooms that catered to different music styles, and then they had like a bar, and I mean, it had a salsa room. They had not necessarily rap or anything like that, but more of like a hip hop kind of sort of speaking. And then they had another room. Child, I couldn't even get to all the rooms. They had a rooftop. They had it was very large, but it never felt too crowded or clustered either. The art was beautiful, spectacular, and the experience was wonderful, child. I also took a salsa class. I'm gonna make sure that I put the salsa class information. I booked everything through Facebook Messenger, and then they gave me their WhatsApp, and that was for all of these companies. I cannot remember the gentleman's name, but he was so patient, he was so sweet, he was so kind. Not to say that I'm not good at following along, but literally this was my first time taking any type of salsa anything, and so like I said, he showed me the basic steps, and we came through, okay? And another thing is that I'm bigger than him. I'm a thick, tall one, okay? And then, like I said, the Cuban people are a little smaller, and he even made a little joke about it, but he was like, oh no, that's okay. I'm gonna stand tall, I'm gonna stand on, and it was so funny. But he didn't speak English, but he tried. We both tried with each other. I was teaching him English. He's like, how do you say left? How do you say back? Front? And then I'm asking him, how do you say it in Spanish? And we were teaching each other. It was really, really, really good. The only thing I can say is that it is extremely hot. It's out the door, like on a rooftop style. And there was no fans, no AC, nothing. It gets hot, honey. I was sweating my ass off. I even got a little dehydrated. Thank God they had agua, honey. Agua, please. Por favor, honey. Okay, gracias. Because, woo, Lord, they was gonna have to be picking my big ass up off the floor, honey. I was ready to pass out. I did also plan a day trip to Vinales, but that kind of got rearranged. So I'm gonna have to take advantage of that the next trip. This was a popular recommendation from a lot of the locals, and basically it was just gonna be a 2-hour drive there and a 2-hour drive back to like the countryside of Cuba. You're gonna do some horseback riding, some cigar rolling. I can't remember everything else, but I'm definitely gonna get to it next time around. All in all, these experiences was really, really great and worth the money. Transportation, I used a lot of Bicitaxi, I don't know. It's like a bicycle taxi. And that ranged from about $2 to $5, $2 to $8. Nothing was ever $10 or over based on where you were going. I ain't gonna lie though, honey, at one point I was a little concerned because, you know, this girl, this plus size body, and a lot of them Cubans now, they're pretty small. So I've seen the man doing a little struggle, honey. I was trying to, you know, move myself to move the bike too, but he was like, no, I got it. I'm like, okay. That's one strong damn Cuban. That's all I'm gonna say, because this body is bodying, okay? This is cornbread fed and rice and a lot of starch fed body, okay? It's not easy to get a, be pedaling around. And he did the damn thing, honey. I definitely tip for the struggle. I use this form of transportation the majority of the time, or I just walked. Make sure you confirm the location of where you're being dropped off to before they just leave, okay? Because I ended up getting dropped off to the wrong location. Yes, quick story time. I was supposed to be going to my salsa class. Ended up getting dropped off at a church. I did look at the number, and I seen the number on the wall, and it matched what I had on my phone. It even had the name CEN, or I can't remember what it was, but it said that. The thing was, it was the wrong street. And I literally was about to freak out. I knocked on the door, and I'm like, hey, I'm here to do my salsa class. And then the gentleman, he didn't speak English. He called somebody to the door that did. And Grandpa came to the door, and he's like, honey, this is a church. And we both just bust out laughing. I'm like, oh, my Lord. Forgive me, Father. There was angels watching over me on this trip because there was always somebody that was willing to help. At least one person. He was asking people around because he wasn't really sure. And then he went over to the neighbors, and these ladies were sitting in their house and they were talking. He pretty much asked them, and they wasn't really sure, but then they kind of figured it out. I showed them the address. They didn't speak any English at all. None. And they were pointing down the street, and he translated that. He said that it's up the road, a few blocks up to your right, and da-da-da-da. And I'm just looking like, there's no way. I'm assuming that the lady must have seen the fright in my face, and she was like, vámonos, vámonos, vámonos. And she took me to the location. This lady walked me all the way down the street. Of course, I tipped that ass because that was such a blessing. She didn't have to do it. She even knocked on the door for me to be sure that I was getting dropped off to the right location. She's like, señorita. They wasn't even answering the door, child. We was knocking for at least a few minutes. Señorita. The lady finally came to the door, my instructor, or who I booked with and was speaking to when I was in the U.S., and I just thank that lady with everything in me. I still can see her face and everything. That's going to be a moment of my life that I'm never going to forget because, honey, I don't know what I would have did without that lady. No Spanish, like, speaking of Spanish, it is great to know some Spanish. Brush up on your Spanish, honey. I've taken Spanish 1, Spanish 2, probably 3, I believe. But it was so far ago, like so long ago, child. It's one of those situations that if you don't use it, you lose it. And that was the case. I didn't know like basics. Baño for the bathroom, agua for water. Please, thank you. I would think you need to know how much. Know some numbers so that you can know the amount. Just brush up on your Spanish. You can also, from what I was told, buy a English-Spanish dictionary if you like. I also read somewhere that you can be able to do a Google Translate offline. Now, I didn't try it. I should have to see if it would work offline, but they said it exists. So make sure you have that or be pretty fluent or just a little, just enough. Porquito, okay, of Spanish, because baby, you gonna need it. Majority of the Cuban people do not speak English. There was a few that came, that did, especially the people who interact with the tourists. But I just feel like because they can't really come to the U.S., they have no desire. They you know what I'm saying? They have strict limitations for them to even be able to come over. They probably feel like, what is the point of me even learning English? You know what I'm saying? Returning back to the States, I was like, how the hell do I get back? What is it that I need? I was a little confused. We'll still need to hold on to that visa. Remember, you got it when you was on your way coming to Cuba. Now going back home, you would need that visa as well. That's very important. Also, JetBlue sent me a esthetician or something like that I needed to fill out. Those two things were the only things that I needed. And also my passport, of course. I did bring back cigars with no issues, but I was told that you can't bring back cigars. It's a problem. I was also told about rum that you can't. I think it's all about who you get. If somebody want to overdo their job. I mean, that's just how I felt about it, because I've read a lot of people that said that they were able to bring things back. Then some people said that they were not. Oh, sis, and if I can recommend anything, I recommend Global Entry, honey. That line was so long coming back from Cuba into the States. Thank God I had my Global Entry card. I went over to the machine. Just took a picture of myself and then got into the line, and there was no one in that line, and I went straight through customs and out the damn door in about 5 minutes, honey. Make sure you bring your filtered water bottle. I'm gonna have all of these linked down below to make it even easier for you. Your filtered water bottle. Do not drink Cuban water and ice without it being filtered. Now the water bottles, the ones in the water bottles was fine, but like out of the faucet or wherever else you find it, don't do it, sis. Also take some medicines with you, particularly charcoal, just in case you eat something that upsets your stomach or you happen to forget and get some of their ice or whatever. Now, I did have some mojitos that had crushed ice in it. I didn't eat the ice, but it was made with the ice, so I don't know. But I did also take some charcoal just in case. Make sure you travel with your medicines. Anything that you may need, again, you will not be able to have access to it. Again, don't forget to print out screenshots of everything, personal information, your itinerary, everything. Have it on hand just in case. If there's anything else that I forgot that you may need, I'll make sure I put it here on the screen. I just feel like if you can master Cuba as a solo traveler, you can master anywhere. It was a few challenges, and I like that though, because I feel like it's only preparing me for my next adventure. So if that goes even easier, it'll be like, oh, this is a piece of cake, because compared to what I had to go through or what I experienced in Cuba, not saying that it was bad, but you know, the little hiccups, oh, this is nothing. I'm really hoping that all of this information was very valuable. If it was, be sure to thumbs up this video, please. That'll let YouTube know that this video needs to be in them YouTube streets for everybody to see. This is the type of video and content that I wish I had. That's why I'm making sure that I make it for you. If you felt them good vibes, positive energy, honey, go ahead and subscribe. And if you made it to the end of this video, make sure you drop this emoji down in the comments. That's how I know it's real. I want to thank you so very much for taking the time out to watch my video. Until next time, safe travels.